pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. The first order of business is the election of the position of chairman for the year 2010. Nominations are now open for this position.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we nominate, I'd like to nominate Mr. Maxie Roselle as chairman.
I'll second that.
Placed in the nomination is the name of Maxie Roselle of the Reedy Church District for the position of chairman. Mr. Akers moves. Mr. Thomas seconds. Are there any other nominations? If not, is there a motion to move the nominations to be closed and Mr. Roselle to be elected by acclamation?
So moved, Mr.
Second.
Ashcraft.
It's been moved and seconded that the nominations be closed and Mr. Roselle be elected by acclamation. We would do it by a roll call vote. Mr. Popowitz, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
Mr. Seeley?
Aye.
Mr. Akers?
Aye.
And Mr. Roselle? Aye. By a vote of 5-0, Mr. Roselle will serve as chairman for the year 2010. Mr. Chairman, I turn the gavel over to you. And on behalf of your staff, we offer congratulations and look forward to working with you for another successful year for Caroline County.
Thank you, Mr. Ashcraft, board members. We will now proceed with the remainder of the organizational meeting, and at this time we will open the floor for the nominations for vice chairman. The nominations for the vice chairman.
I'll make a nomination for Mr. Floyd Thomas to be vice chair.
Second.
Motion been made and probably second. Any other names for vice chair? Okay, being no other names would be accepted by acclamation. And we will go on the vote. Mr. Popowitz?
Aye.
Mr. Akers?
Aye.
Mr. Seeley?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. And Mr. Thomas? All right. Congratulations. Next rule of business, adoption of bylaws and rules and procedures. Board members, you do have before you the proposed rules in your packet. Any motions on the rules or any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we adopt the rules of order as presented in the board packet.
Second.
Motion made and probably second that we accept the rules as presented in the board packet. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. And motion carries. Now we need to discuss the regular monthly meeting schedule. There's been some discussion as to some things that we could do maybe to reduce some of the time that's spent of staff and attorneys and other folks in meetings. Of course, traditionally we have met twice a month for these meetings, and I think there's some ideas that possibly we could meet on odd months twice a month as we have in the past, and on even months to meet on the first Tuesday, but always set aside the fourth Tuesday for in the event that we have to have a second meeting because of agenda items that we would have to have.
That was good.
And we had a little spill.
We'll take care of that. Oh, that's a good thing.
Okay, so there's been some interest in that, and I understand if we do this, we had talked about doing one a month, and it would be a savings of about $18,000. But if we do it this way, there's a savings of about $9,000. And as we know, as we get into the budget, we'll probably need that savings. So, any other thoughts or discussions on that point?
Mr. Chairman, I think that county administrator put together a survey on the webpage, and the results of that survey. Now, grant you, there were not thousands of people that voted in this survey, but the survey did indicate that 71% of the people in the county that did take time to vote indicated thought it was a good idea to save money where we could save money, and that would, and if going to once a month meetings would save money, then we should do that. Only 38% thought it was a bad idea, and 5% of the people said they don't follow county government, so it doesn't make any difference to them how often we meet. But again, I think that it's probably something that we need to consider and look at. I do know that there are other localities that have done the same thing to conserve and save money. I would support the odd even scenario that you just mentioned. I think that would possibly, at least for the year, to see how it works for the first year. If it doesn't work, we go back to what we've been doing. But if it does work, I think we can save staff, because staff, as you see tonight, we have several members of staff here this evening. And under the tight conditions, I don't know if we're going to be able to give pay raises. And most of the people that are here this evening do not get extra money. They don't get overtime. They're just here. So again, I just think it's something we need to try and look at for a year and see how well it works out. If it doesn't work out, we revert back to what we were doing.
Other board members?
I guess my only concern is that we had a meeting at the end of November, and a week later we had our last meeting of the year in December, and at 10:25 we still weren't done, and it was only 5 agenda items. I guess I do agree leaving the last Tuesday of the month open for the event that we have to have a meeting. I think it's worth a try, but I think we'll find that we're inundated some nights.
Mr. Chairman, the only other option we could come up with probably would be like a summer schedule. So from maybe May or June to September, we only met once a month. A lot of boards do that. I think this is worth a try, and I like this idea. So it's worth a try. Let's move with that, and we'll see how it works.
Mr. Popovich, did you have?
I think everybody here has mirrored my concerns and support on it, so I have no comment.
Okay, if that's the feeling of the board, I imagine we have to present that motion to a vote.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that we change our schedule for regular board meetings to the odd months. We will have 2 meetings a month, the second and fourth Tuesday, and on even months, even numbered months, we would have 1 meeting a month, which would be the first Tuesday of the month. And did you have a time on it? For 1 year, we same time. Oh yeah, same time. 6 o'clock would be fine. I think we can. I really do believe that we can conduct the majority of the business within that 4 to 5 hour range. And Mr. Seeley is right. I think that there are going to be some meetings that we go over, but I don't think it's going to be on a regular schedule. My other thought would be that we try to schedule, or planning, or whoever tries to schedule their public hearings always on the month that we're meeting twice a month, and we have public hearings on the fourth Tuesday of that month, unless there's a public hearing that just absolutely cannot wait, and I'm sure there are going to be those as well. But on a regular basis, I think that it would be, we'll be able to have the public hearings on the fourth Tuesday.
The second and fourth Tuesday.
Second and fourth Tuesdays, that is correct, on twice a month. The first or the second Tuesday, when we have 1 meeting a month, it would be at the second Tuesday, yes. and the meetings would be starting at 6 o'clock.
All right, and that's your motion.
Yes, please.
Second.
Okay, motion made, proper second. All right, proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. And I would still encourage, if there is a need for a meeting on that fourth Tuesday, that as we proceed, that if there's going to be a time to meet, that as we schedule our monthly calendars in advance, to, be conscious of that, to say that we can leave that time open in case we have to call a meeting.
Absolutely.
It will be that fourth. We'll call it on the fourth
Yes, sir.
Tuesday. For the procedures for call meeting, if we would have to have a call meeting.
We would, if it was an emergency, we would obviously notify the board members as quickly as possible, and then notify the media and make personal contact with them. If it was a meeting that we had a week or two advance notice, then we certainly would go ahead and try to put the notice in the newspaper and, of course, in our website and so forth. So we have always made it a practice to notify all those involved in any kind of a special situation, so that to meet the requirements of the Open Meetings Act as it's spelled out by law.
Really, the question was, and I asked Mr. Roselle to ask you that, is just so all the folks will know when we meet on the 1st, and then we know we're going to have another meeting, then you've got time to put it into progress.
That's right.
So at least folks will know when there is a second meeting on those even months, I guess. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, board members, and we'll now move towards the the board appointments. And the first one is the Rappahannock Agent on Aging, which I have served and I'm willing to serve that again. Social Services Board, Mr. Seeley, I believe, is willing to serve again as well. George Washington Regional Commission, Mr. Popowich and myself served on that, and we're both willing to serve again. The Fredericksburg Chamber of Commerce Military Affairs Council, Mr. Seeley has served in that capacity, and he's willing to serve in that capacity again.
Yes, sir.
Rappahannock Regional Disability Board, Mr. Ashcraft represents the board on that committee, and he's willing to serve. In Rappahannock River Basin Commission, Mr. Thomas, are you interested in that again?
Unless there's someone else who'd like to.
Okay. Fredericksburg Regional Alliance, Mr. Popowich. Recreation Advisory Committee, Mr. Akers has said he's interested in that, so Mr. Akers is willing to serve. And that's the way they're laid out. I think everybody agrees to that, and a motion would be in order for...
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that we reappoint everybody that's in the position that they are in now, and with the exception of the Recreation Advisory Committee, everybody else stays in the same position they're in.
Okay.
That's my motion.
Second. Right. Motion made and properly second. Mr. Seeley had the second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Thank you very much. As far as the appointments as board liaisons, we'd like to ask Mr. Popowich to continue with economic development and utilities, communications and technology, Mr. Thomas, and for Bowling Green, Jeff Seeley, and education and public safety, I will take those, and finance and education, finance and recreation would be Mr. Akers?
I believe it was planning, Mr.
Planning.
Excuse me, planning. That's exactly right. Thank you. And did I miss one? Yes. And Mr. Thomas to do Public Works. Okay?
Okay.
And that is, will be the appointments from the chair.
Mr. Chairman,
Chairman,
you think you also miss AP Hill?
That was Bowling Green, Port Royal.
Yes, and Mr. Seeley would still be with AP Hill.
Okay.
So Mr. Sealer would be the liaison for Bowling Green and AP Hill.
And
Bowling
AP
Green,
Hill.
Port Royal, and AP.
Well, now, he's taking Port Royal out of
Yeah,
it.
we-
he said.
Oh,
I think Mr. Popovich will work with Court Royal. It makes more sense in that regard.
Okay.
you need a motion, Mr. Chairman?
No, it's,
I think these are
Or is
just
these are just
board
your- those are
appointments,
appointments.
liaison, so. All right, but thank you, just the same. Okay, anything left, Mr. Ashcraft, on the,
No, sir.
okay, we, a motion to close the organizational meeting?
So moved.
Second. Motion made and properly second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, the organizational meeting is now closed. Okay, we'll now call the Caroline County Board of Supervisors meeting to order, and we certainly welcome everyone who came tonight to see your Board of Supervisors working for you, and we appreciate you being here tonight. And I'd like to start off with opening board comments, and all the board members have been already recognized. But Mr. Popovich, do you have any opening board comments?
No, just that I'm looking forward to starting off the new year on a good note and continue that forward through the rest of the year.
Mr. Akers?
Mr. Chairman, I do have one thing I'd like to suggest to the board and ask the board to concur with. I don't know at what point this needs to be done, whether it's under new business. The board just voted to reduce the meeting schedule for the next year. And I think that we've all heard and talked to members of the General Assembly that have indicated, and we've heard many horror stories about the financial condition of the state. And as we know, it's not going to be pretty. I am confident that the governor-elect coming in office is going to do all that he can to make sure that the services are provided for the citizens of this county, as well as other counties throughout the state. I believe it would be prudent of this board to reduce its salary by 13% for the next year to help out with the budget conditions that's going to take place in this county, as it has in other counties. So again, I don't know whether it's appropriate to make a motion at this point to reduce the board's salary by 13%. And if it is appropriate, then I would make that motion that we reduce by 13% the board's salary for the next year.
Second.
Okay, board members, y'all agree it's okay to take it up this time? General
Absolutely.
consensus?
Yep.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, and we'll go ahead. I'll accept the motion on the consensus of the board that's willing to take this up now. And motion's been made by Mr. Akers that we look at the board salary and reduce it 13%
Yes.
at this point, and you understand the reasons. Second by Mr. Popovich. Any discussion on this motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion's carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Akers?
No, sir, that's all I have. As Mr. Popowitz, I'm looking forward to the next year, and congratulations. You were a great vice chairman last year, and so I'm looking forward to serving under your leadership this year.
Thank you very much. Mr. Seeley?
I have one opening board comment. I received a phone call from Congressman Whitman this afternoon, and he is adopting a new policy of no earmarks. He believes that all he's doing by adopting earmarks is adding to the federal debt, with particularly in the light of that no additional cuts have been made from the federal budget. So at this point, he's expressing that he will no longer use earmarks as a method for funding projects in the district, but we'll go and work with legislators to actually have needed things put into legislation that actually will become law or will be debated as law. And he just wanted to pass that on to the board for our information.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Seeley. Mr. Thomas?
Just one, Mr. Chairman, and I'm sure we as a board all agree, and it just wasn't on our agenda per se for this one, but I think the board needs to adopt a resolution in concurrence with the town of Port Royal, stating our stance against the encroachment of the explosive area on the town of Port Royal. And I know we're supposed to do that, so.
Yeah, that's going to be in the
Number 7.
agenda.
I just want to make sure we had that there, so, okay.
Okay,
It's consent agenda.
all right.
That was it.
We do have a discussion under item 7. Okay,
But that's what it was.
all right. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman, and I do appreciate the accolades. You know, as we go into this year, we know it's going to be a real challenge going into this next budget cycle, and you know, with the board and the staff that we have, I'm confident that we can do the best with what we have. And I think everybody's knows already we won't be doing a whole lot new, and we'll be doing all we can do to maintain what we have. And that's going to be our focus, I think, certainly going into this remaining of this 2010 budget, and then looking at the 2011 budget, which is certainly going to be some difficult times for all of us. But we can still make the best of it in maintaining what we have. So I look forward to us really working together as a cohesive group. And, you know, we don't always agree, but, you know, we get along. And I think that's one of the most important things, and I do look forward to working with you all this year. I think the General Assembly is something that we need to follow closer this year, especially from the finance end, you know, to see how things are panning out. As soon as we can figure it out, we need to know, you know, how we can proceed. So we certainly want to spend some quality time following the session this year. And as Senator McDougal told us last week at a meeting, that, you know, basically all of his decisions this year would be bad. He said he doesn't think he has many good decisions to make. Most all of them will be bad decisions. There won't be many good at all. So I feel his pain. I understand what they're going through, and they do have a tough job this year. Okay, with that being said, we'll move right on into some good news. And today we're really proud to recognize a citizen from the county who has contributed a great deal, especially to the folks who live in the southern part of Caroline County. But when it comes to history and preserving history, she has always spoken for all of Caroline County. And we do have a presentation that we'd like to make to Ms. Jane Massey, and we'll be coming right down there to you.
Okay. Come on, he wants to go.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, tonight I'm so proud to recognize Ms. Jane Massey. If you all haven't met her before, here she is. And she has done so much for our community of Dawn and Frog Level and the overall county of Caroline, to recognize the achievements and securing the historic importance of Caroline for all these many years. And I'd like to read this resolution: appreciation for Mrs. Jane Massey for her work in historic preservation. Whereas Ms. Jane Massey, a retired educator and longtime resident of Caroline County, has been passionate and a committed advocate for historic preservation in Caroline County and the surrounding areas for decades. Whereas Mrs. Massey's historic preservation effort and civic-minded has been a great benefit to Don community in which she resides and to Caroline County as a whole. And whereas her historical knowledge and writing skills have been preserved for future generations in the historical section of the Don Sub-Area Plan that she authored as a component of Caroline County's comprehensive plan. And whereas a conglomeration of her work, property known as the Grove, owned by Mrs. Massey and her late husband, G. Edmund Massey III, has recently listed by the Virginia Landmark Register of National Register for Historic Places. And whereas inclusion of the state in the National Register is reserved for the most historically significant properties in our state and nation, and is a very prestigious honor for Mrs. Massey and for Caroline County. Now there be it for resolved that the Caroline County Board of Supervisors hereby expresses its heartfelt appreciation to Mrs. Jane Massey for her significant contributions to historic preservation in Caroline County and extends its enthusiastic congratulations to her upon inclusion of her property, the Grove, on the state and national historic register. Adopted on the 12th day of January 2010, Percy Ashcraft, Clerk of the Board, and Chairman D.M. Roselle Jr. Mrs. Massey, we're proud of your work. We want to recognize you for your work, and we thank you for being such a good supporter of Caroline County.
I'll take one, you stand up.
We have a ball here. He wants to know if I want to say something. I'm always ready to say something, either for or opposed to whatever you're doing. But I have enjoyed my 50 years in Caroline County. I've worked very hard to make it a viable, useful community, and particularly the Dawn area. And I have worked extremely hard to do what should be done. And I've also enjoyed writing my books for the Dawn area.
They haven't noticed that.
I kept you on your toes. I kept you on your toes.
You've been such a wallflower.
No, I'm not a wallflower. She's good at
You'll fit in right back here.
You might have to pass it.
Yeah, that probably will.
I'm sure. I won't hide you.
Mr. Roselle, can you move to my left just a little bit there? Okay, that's good right there. That'll work. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Massey. Okay, hey, that's good.
These are
Okay,
nowhere
let me
near
take
the
a couple
production
more
he's
just in
doing.
case somebody blinks. One more yet? Great. Thank you.
See if those work out.
Thank you, Ms. Massey.
Yeah, that's fine.
Before he has to leave.
He said the Stella too. He said the Stella too. Put him in the picture of the Stella too. Oh, this picture. Oh,
He was taking pictures before it was clean. It is a good website picture.
It's true.
Thank you.
Yeah, he's the same amount. He just spread it. Yeah, right. Well, you know, you're all right. You're all right. I couldn't. It's about three of you trying to.
I couldn't read anything.
Okay, board members ready to proceed? We do have next our county registrar, Danette Moen, and she has a special presentation for us today. More good news.
Yes, more
Right.
good news. I'd like to thank the Board of Supervisors for giving us this time to recognize the students from Caroline High School that worked as Election Day pages in the November 2009 general election. There are 64 names, but many of them are here. So what I would like is, as they come, can they go back there and let us get a picture of them? Would that be okay? Okay. Okay.
They won't go up there.
No, they're gonna come here, and we'll pass them out, and then they'll go back, okay?
Yes, yeah, but you.
I'll hand them to you, and you shake their hand, and then they will. Okay? At this time, the Carolina Electoral Board, represented by Matthew West,
Should have left her the mic.
and myself, the voter registrar, would like to present to the Election Day pages of 2009 a certificate of appreciation. If you only remember one thing from the training, I'd like for it to be, oh, did I have to start it? Oh, I'm sorry. I kind of did fail. Okay. Did I start over? At this time, the Caroline County Electoral Board and myself, the voter registrar, would like to present the Election Day pages of 2009, a certificate of appreciation. If you only learned one thing from the training, I would like for you to have learned this, that at some point in time in the history of this country, someone laid down their life to give us the right and privilege to cast our vote, and that we should not take that right and privilege for granted. So thank you, and at this time I'm going to attempt the names. Okay. I'll call out the name and then you shake the hand. Alexis Alton. Elizabeth Ancaro. Courtney Armstead. Kevin Ardent. Amanda Beasley. Bianca Beasley. And then Jessica Braxton. Samantha Brigman. Quentin Broadus. Ryan Burkholder. Hillary Burrell. Mallory Burrell. Nathan Shavaska. Jordan Chambers. Sierra Childs. Casey Seeger. Kelly Claiborne. Halisa Dandridge.
Could you hold this just a second, please? Thank you.
So many things happen.
Okay, we're gonna put them in the back.
Kendall Davis. Samantha Dibble. Taylor Dixon. Kimberly Driscoll. Justin Dutton. Tiffany Eldridge. Tanikua Yura. Caitlin Faulkner. Hannah Fisher.
They were all at the election.
Tabitha Fortune. Carissa Frisk. Patrick Gatewood. Nakisha Green. Fatima Goodall. Scott Green. Anthony James. Radwan Jarrar. Jarrar. I messed that one up bad, didn't I? Clancy Jordan. Angela Lewis. Sierra Lewis. Travis Lilly. Robert Maston. Kayla McCarter. Angelica Mayer. Kiera Monroe. Johnny Moore. Derek Moulds, M-O-U-L-D-S. Heather Neerman, N-I-E-R-M-A-N. Corey Nolte. Terrence Alford. Morgan Pelmy. Deandra Parker. Jadrian Roberts. Shaquila Robinson. Freddie Salas. Taylor Sale. LaShawn Scott. Keith Seabolt. Jess Seal. Jennifer Smith. Lamont Smith. Trevon Smith. Christian Spencer. Eric Taylor. Ryan Taylor. Emmanuel Watson. And then Miss Blanton and the government teachers. So if there was one I missed, I may have pronounced your name really bad, and I'm sorry.
But, Miss Blanton will get those first. Let's go up and get our picture made, then I'll come get the book.
I may ask you to do something a little different when I get back